All right, good evening. Welcome to the regular school board meeting, November 19th. We're going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And now a moment of silence. Thank you. And now, Dr. Heil, I'm going to turn it to you for recognitions.
All right, thank you. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for being here with us this evening. I am actually going to invite Mrs. Renee Cook, principal of Noble Crossing, to come up because our first three items are all about Noble Crossing tonight.
Yeah, come on up. All are welcome. All are welcome. We'll do Amy first. Okay, just Amy. She loves recognition. This is hard for her. Noble Crossing has a lot to celebrate tonight, and it brings me great joy to recognize Amy Brown as the Indiana Elementary Physical Education Teacher of the Year for our state. Amy brings so many strengths to our school and our whole community. As a physical education teacher, she's so connected across our state with her colleagues and brings leadership to them as well. But here are a few strengths I want to highlight and celebrate tonight. First, her commitment to innovation, inclusion, and relationship building. It sets her apart and sets a great example for us all, Amy. She really makes Noble Crossing an amazing place to learn, grow, and work because of these qualities. I want to just give a couple of examples about this work. She continues to look for ways to create fun, engaging, innovative experiences for our students. Just a couple examples. She co-teaches an archery unit with our SRO, Mike Hargrove, where students learn about self-discipline, of course, archery skills, and also about productive struggle. It's a hard skill to learn. And then just for fun, she does so many things to make kids just want to come alive in our gym classroom. Last year, she did a full cosmic bowling experience, helped students to learn coordination. But when those students walked in and saw disco balls, light up equipment, all kinds of things, their eyes lit up, and you could just feel that joy and enthusiasm. It was a lot of fun. So just want to celebrate her dedication to fostering an environment of inclusion. Her encouragement of our students really makes a difference in their lives, and I feel so fortunate to work alongside Amy each day. So congratulations to Amy on this amazing accomplishment. And in true Noble Crossing fashion, they brought fan signs, so I love it. All right, lots to celebrate. And now our hair spotlight teachers. Yeah, everyone come on up. Join us. Thank you, I want to say first to the members of the board for welcoming us this evening. We have a lot to celebrate, and we're looking forward to sharing that with you. It's an exciting day for our school, and we're really looking forward to just giving a snapshot in to the work that we've been doing this school year. But first, we're going to begin by celebrating our spotlight teachers, Brittany Bonishow in kindergarten, Brooke Lawrence, one of our resource teachers, and Joan Walden, one of our second grade teachers. So first, Brittany Bonishow, one of our amazing kindergarten teachers, brings 3 years of teaching experience to our school. She really encourages students to develop a love of learning that takes them throughout their lifetime. Her goal is to have them, I love this, grow like seeds in sunshine, be 100% themselves, and learn from others around them. And if you step into her classroom or just even into the halls, you feel that joy, that enthusiasm. That is one of her superpowers. I see that every day. Her advice for parents is to understand that failure is a catalyst for growth, not a step backwards, an opportunity, a stepping stone for success. Outside of school, she loves to read, spend time with her family and dogs, and plan trips. And she recognizes that Noblesville Schools is such a special place because of the culture she builds, and we all build together to create a safe, welcoming environment for all. Next up, we have Joan Walden, a second grade teacher with 14 years of experience at Noble Crossing. And she loves teaching. Once again, I love this so much. She sees teaching as adding a chapter to a child's story, and she loves being part of that story and journey with them. Her goal is to have students ready to enter into that next grade level, third grade, ready for learning, ready for growth, and ready for independence. And her advice for parents is to give children opportunities to see the world through another person's eyes, to grow in empathy and gratitude. She also loves reading, traveling, and she recognizes Noble Crossing and Noblesville Schools is so special because it honors the past. We got to do that in our Veterans Day tradition last week, while also creating an opportunity for growth moving forward. So great to recognize Joan today. And next we have Brooke Lawrence, one of our resource teachers in her second year at Noble Crossing. She loves kids. She loves seeing them meet their goals, and really is committed to that academic growth and excellence. I get to see that working alongside her each day, the passion that she brings. Her advice for parents is to really listen in. Listen to your child's thoughts, their ideas, make them feel valued. She loves coaching softball. She does that right here in Noblesville, playing tennis and spending time with her French bulldog, Nash. And she recognizes that Noblesville Schools is so special because of our sense of community, and she helps us build that at Noble Crossing too. So thank you, Brooke. So want to recognize once again Joan, Brittany, and Brooke for all their contributions that they bring, not only to Noble Crossing, but to our district as a whole. Thank you, guys. And also want to recognize one thing I love about Noble Crossing. We have this whole community of teachers who come, and they show up for each other all the time. So I want to recognize them. These three individuals are great representatives of all the work that we do together. So thank you to everyone there, too. All right. Everyone can join me up. Thank you, guys. I'm going to have you welcome.
Yeah, I was wondering. Yeah, she must have two.
You ready?
There's another
All right.
Oh, he does.
All right, so we're going to jump right into a snapshot of some of the work that we've been doing over the past month together. This year, Noble Crossing's theme is Tigers Lead the Way. And through this theme, we've really uplifted our learning centered on leadership, respect, responsibility, those important career-ready skills. And so through that focus, we've really been emphasizing and uplifting our hearts to the idea of service. And what does that mean to serve a cause bigger than our own? So we're going to give you a window into that work. Today, we're going to take you alongside for that journey and the work that has helped us build stronger connections with our students, our staff, and our community as a whole. So we're really excited to also share how these experiences not only connect with our school goals, but also the board goals that we're all committed to together of academic excellence, compassionate care and support, engaging community relations, and a celebrated school culture. So at this time, I'm going to introduce Taryn Hassler, our Wonder School librarian and media specialist, to give a window in to this work.
Hello. During the month of November, we have focused our library sessions around service animals. While I knew it would be a topic students would enjoy, it has led to more meaningful lessons than I even imagined. Our goal for kindergarten was to introduce our newest students to the dogs and handlers they see in our building. After reading the book Dogs with Jobs, each class got to meet either Pedro and Sergeant Tony or Mrs. Hunley and Filbert and hear more about the work they do. Our goal for first and second grade was to branch out to meet the service dogs of our community. Our students met the Noblesville Fire Department's therapy dog, Carbon, last spring during their fire safety lessons, and imagine their delight when this year they got to celebrate his 3rd birthday with a parade. It was certainly a sight to see 150 students singing happy birthday while a dog drives by in a tiny fire truck. And now for our older students. As I was researching service dogs, I came across an article about Indiana DNR using conservation dogs to look for invasive species. I knew this would be a fantastic, I'm in charge of that. I'm sorry, I did not know that. They were using conservation dogs to look for invasive species. I knew this would be a fantastic fit for our 3rd and 5th grade students who learn about ecosystems as part of their science standards. We are so appreciative that Callie Bontrager drove all the way from LaPorte to demonstrate how her dogs are trained to find spotted lanternflies. Now, each year, our 4th graders read the book Tuesday Takes Me There, which explains how Tuesday, a therapy dog, assists a veteran. After reading articles about therapy dogs, students got to meet Filbert and learn different ways therapy dogs help students in our district. We extended these lessons in the library by talking about how working with animals can help veterans suffering from PTSD and why programs such as Pets Healing Vets are so important. We have many more lessons planned. We're learning how wolves became domesticated and how dogs' noses work. We're connecting to our reading and writing standards. And my personal favorite, our 1st graders are getting tiny little plush puppies that they're going to be able to train as reading dogs to keep at their desks. While all of this has been amazing, the true magic is what's happening between the lessons. It's kids excitedly telling their parents what they did at school that day. It's witnessing those moments of deep reflection when our students are talking about the struggles of veterans. It's seeing a student who rarely engages raising their hand and hearing those reluctant readers discussing the Dogs with a Purpose series together. My heart has been full from the conversations and questions that I've had in the hallways, and I cannot wait to see all the new connections we make in the coming weeks. And now, it is my privilege to introduce our best boy, Filbert, and his handler, Debbie Hunley. And if you have not had a chance to see them in action, prepare to have your hearts melted because they always bring us great joy.
My name is Debbie Hunley. I'm a physical therapist with HBM Co-op, and I service buildings in Noblesville. And one of the great things I get to do is talk to classes about Filbert and the work that we do. Filbert comes with me to work with students with physical disabilities. He helps with motivation and helping with intervention to help those students be able to go up and down stairs, propel their wheelchairs across the buildings and in our schools, use their walkers in our classrooms, and just gross motor skills so they can keep up with their friends and perform those skills in PE. He also helps our students with physical disability have that connection with their peers, and just in the fact of they both want to come up and see a dog and talk to a dog. So it's been really neat to see his interaction with my students that I work with as well as being able to work with all the students, help them understand how they work. So.
Hard to follow that. All right. I'm honored to be able to talk to you guys tonight and talk about how our work with service dogs connect with our district goals of academic excellence, compassionate care and support, community engagement, and school culture. First, in academic excellence, we've connected real-world experiences with our curriculum, especially in reading, science, and social studies. Students studying the important role service dogs play in supporting people, careers, and our community, directly tying to their lessons on empathy, science, and societal needs. This real-world connection not only enhanced their understanding of the academic content, but also gave them a deeper appreciation for the value of service in our community. In compassionate care and support, we emphasized our tiger traits of taking pride in our learning, being respectful, responsible, and safe, much like the selfless work of service dogs. Students have had the opportunities to witness firsthand how these animals help individuals navigate daily challenges, reinforcing the importance of tiger traits beyond our classrooms. In engaging community relations, we celebrate our partnership with local organizations by organizing events that bring our community into Noble Crossing, as well as seeking ways to provide opportunities outside of the school. One new event will be shared at the end of this presentation that I can't wait to hear more about. Finally, in celebrating school culture, we upheld our tradition of honoring service and sacrifice, culminating in a special Veterans Day program where students reflected on service. It was a true honor to be able to recognize and celebrate the veterans in our community. This program allowed students to engage in meaningful reflections on the sacrifices of our service members while connecting to the true spirit of service. And to speak more on that, I'm going to pass it to our wonderful music teacher, Mrs. Sterling.
Good evening. I'm excited to share with you about the wonderful Veterans Day program that took place at Noble Crossing Elementary. Our third grade students worked incredibly hard in the months leading up to this event. They dedicated themselves to not only learning about the history of Veterans Day, but also about the bravery and the sacrifice of those who have served our country. The students performed several heartfelt songs, each one chosen to honor veterans, and they shared meaningful facts and stories about the significance of this important day. Their enthusiasm and respect for the occasion were evident, and it was a truly memorable experience that brought our community together to honor those who have served in the armed forces. It was a great privilege to witness their growth and dedication as they took part in such an important tradition. Thank you for your continued support of our programs that help students connect with our history and show appreciation for those who serve.
Mrs. Sterling created a brief video to share just a window into the program that she developed alongside our third graders last Monday. So finally, we introduced this idea of service through real-world experiences and service animals, and had a chance to celebrate our true heroes, our nation's veterans. And so all this culminates into an event that we'd like to invite you to attend if you're able, in just 2 days. He's actually hand delivering hats and invitations to you right now. So in just 2 days, on Thursday, November 21st at 6 o'clock at Dillon Park, Noble Crossing will be hosting our first ever Moochie Mile. And you may be asking, who's Moochie? Moochie is our SRO, Mike Hargrove's sidekick. He is a bearded dragon and goes into lessons and classrooms with Officer Mike. And we're really looking forward to this really special event for our community. What this will mean is that everyone, Noble Crossing families and the community as a whole, are invited to join us. And it's a free event, but any donation collected will go to a nonprofit, Pets Healing Vets, which is a wonderful Hamilton County-based organization that connects animals and dogs with veterans needing that love and support. So it's a great connection. Their tagline, their motto is that we heal at both ends of the leash. So looking forward to recognizing and celebrating veterans again on Thursday. And if you're able to attend, we'd love to have you there. Thanks so much. And just want to conclude to members of our school board, we recognize and celebrate, I love the hat, Joe, thank you. We recognize and celebrate you, because you embody those qualities of leadership and service to Noble Crossing and to our district. So thank you for that so much. Thank you. All right. You can keep the hat on if you want to.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys. Thanks.
Yes.
I was going to ask a question.
Go ahead.
I was going to ask if the Veterans Day ceremony is broadcast so that the community can see the video. Okay. Oh, good. Thank you.
Thank you. That was wonderful.
It's going to be hard to top that dog.
It's going to be right. Uh-huh.
I feel like we need a recess for a moment to reset. But
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure why, but The dog passing out these gifts actually brought tears to my eyes, and I don't know why, but thank you.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
All right, next up on reports, we have a report by Dr. Jeremy Kibben from the Kibben Demographic Research LLC, and he's going to provide a presentation of our recent demographic study for Noblesville Schools.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, ladies and gentlemen of the board. In brevity, I will dispense with my usual openings, except that you'll notice there's a different address up there now. We moved. We're now in Alabama as opposed to South Carolina. I'm supposed to be retired, but my friend told me I'm an abject failure at retirement. When we do our forecasts, we have assumptions, broad socioeconomic demographic factors that we look at to build the fertility, mortality, migration models that we use for your population forecast that drives your enrollment forecast. I want to go over the big four. These are the four that's got the highest probability of any error. If there's going to be error in the forecast, it's probably going to come from these four variables. First important one is B. 30-year fixed mortgage rate stays between 5% and 7% for the life of the forecast. It's come down a little bit, about 6.8 this morning. Hard to tell with the new administration coming in, but I think 5 to 7 is a very safe rate. We may tip that back up above 7% again next year. I do know for sure we'll probably never see below 5% again because that was an abnormality of the last decade. The other one, next one is I, and this is the state of Indiana. Indiana is still the only state in the country that has interdistrict transfers, charters, vouchers, and virtual all going on at the same time, a statewide level. The only good thing out of this is Indiana has the best student tracking system in the country. And we have all of their files by 2017 on our computers. We track this. And like most Hamilton County school districts, your transfer number is net negative. We're holding it constant at negative 1,200 per year over the next 10 years. And like 90% of the school districts in Indiana, between 22 and 23, you saw a substantial increase in your public to non-public transfers. Reason for that, they raised the floor for vouchers to $226,000. 96% of all households in the state with kids now qualify for vouchers. So the only good news out of this is now that it's at 97% and $226,000, they could raise it to $500,000. It's not going to have any more impact. So basically everybody's pretty much qualifying for it now. So you can't see that jump again. Okay, so it's maximum impact. You're in migrants, you have to be a employee of the district to transfer in. Been pretty constant, 70, close to that for the last 6 years. And you're out pretty close to about 600 over the last. So most of the change and increase, particularly since the 2022 forecast, has all been private or public to non-private, or public to non-public, pardon me, which is about almost 700. So you're looking at about 1,200 net transfer per year. Those are people who live in the district, but their kids go to non-Noblesville schools. Q and R are the next two, and there's much hand-wringing over this since I put this report out. We have you averaging 190 new single-family housing units, that's single-family, not apartments, per year. About what you've averaged over the last decade. There's a lot of apartments coming in. What's going to happen here? It's the same thing that happened in Carmel. They built thousands of these new apartments the last 10 years, particularly in downtown Carmel area. Their forecast too, they're getting virtually no kids out of them, 0.05, 0.04 kids per unit. I was just talking to the Nexus unit behind us for the meeting. 287 units in there. And according to the district, only 25 school-age kids are in there. It's 0.08. You know, they don't yield that much. Single-family attached homes deal 0.6, 0.7, 0.8, so it's like almost 10 times the factor. But the real thing is Q, 960 existing homes, just like every place else in the country. New home construction only makes up 20% of your housing market. Go next door to the fastest growing district in the state, Westfield, Washington, where they are building to beat the band. Even there, they're only at 30% of their housing market's new home construction. I have no doubt in my mind you're going to hit the 190 this year, next year, the year after that. It's the 960 I'm worried about. Because what's happening is the elderly quit moving during COVID and they haven't started back up again. And we'll see this more in some of the other data. But if we're going to see error in the forecast, it's going to be a violation of one of these four assumptions. Could be, we also assume the state's not going to change the transfer laws. Well, it's the only thing we really can do, but on the surface, it's kind of a dumb assumption because they change them every year. You know, I have no idea what they're going to do next. My guess is charters, but that's my guess. Now, your number one predictive variable for population enrollment change, your pop distribution. And this is Noblesville. This is now the official 2020 census. We have all the information out. It's called the Demographic Housing Characteristics file. It came out right after I got the 22 survey done. And I'm going to assume, is there a laser on this thing? No, should have brought mine. Very easy to read. 0 to 4 at your preschool. 5 to 9 is your elementary, 10 to 14 is middle school, 15, 19 is high school. 20 to 34 is what we call family formation ages. 80% of all births occur to women between the ages of 20 and 34 years old. You can have a total fertility rate of 9. If you don't have women in prime childbearing age, you're not going to have any births. And that's the problem. As you build more apartments, you'll help build out that 24, 25, and 29 age groups. But until that happens, you're going to have this section. 35 to 54 are the ages where most people have kids in school. 55 to 69 are the ages where most people, they're still in their house, but they're now empty nesters. So you have the Jones family down the road, been there for 20 years. But 10 years ago it was mom, dad, and 2 kids. Today the kids have grown up, graduated high school, moved away. Same house, same owner. Household size went from 4 down to 2. And then over 70, that's where you start seeing turnover. You'll see a slight uptick at 62, 65, and 67, but most people don't downsize till they're in their 70s. The stereotype of the healthy and the wealthy, the two person households that retire, sell the house, move to Florida, Myrtle Beach, Texas, wherever they go. Everybody talks about that. That's only 15% of your elderly migration. Most elderly don't downsize till 70. They don't move any more than 50 miles. And what triggers it is either the death of one of the spouses or they both lose the ability to drive. That's what triggers it. Okay. Now you can see a couple things on this pyramid here. You can see, first off, that 0 to 4 bar is smaller than 5 to 9. Left to your own demographic devices, if no one moved in, 5 years later, that 0 to 4 bar is now 5 to 9. It's smaller. You would see about a 500 student drop in enrollment. You haven't had enough births out here to maintain your enrollment for 40 years. Neither is Carmel, neither is Westfield, neither is Hamlin Southeast. Very common in suburban areas. Why? You don't have very many people in prime childbearing age. So you need in-migration just to break even. You're about 60 births short a year of so just on births alone, you would need about 300 to come in just to break even. This is what confuses people because they see all these households moving in, they see new people here, they want to add it to what they already have in their enrollment, not realizing the cohorts coming in behind it are smaller. Okay, so that's one side of the equation. The other thing is you've got a large bubble of population between 35 and 49 years old. Take it forward 5, 10 years. If you go out 10 years, they're now in their late 40s and early 50s. You're going to have an extraordinarily high number of households empty nesting over the next 10 years. And all the people I've talked to in Noblesville who live here like living in Noblesville, and they don't want to go anyplace else. As long as they stay here and they empty nest and the household size drops, they're no longer putting kids in your school system. You have to remember that when we look at the enrollment forecast, every child in the district, grade 3 and higher right now, is gone by 2034. Your 2030 first grade cohort isn't even born yet. Okay? Where are they going to come from and who's going to have them? These are the questions that we need to ask. Now, we have pyramids for each one of the elementaries. Go through them quickly, but you'll see that pretty much that basic hourglass shape. And the key is to look at how many people are in the ages with kids in school, how many are in the empty nest, childbearing, and what's the size of that 0 to 4 cohort, the deficit you're going to have to make up for. Noble Crossing has this little smaller deficit, and they've got a little older population. They've got people heading for turnover ages in the next 10 years. They work out. North, very even distribution, just some interesting bubbles in early 30s and late 40s. Promise Road, which has had a lot of development in the last 10 years, relatively young population. They don't have a deficit out there, but they're also going to have an extraordinarily high amount of empty nesting the last 10 years, and they have very, very few households in their 60s to turn over. So unless they have more building going on out there, they're going to empty nest. And let me expand the definition of empty nest for a second, because we traditionally think of that as when the last child graduates high school. Okay? But you could be empty nest of preschool kids, preschool and elementary, preschool, elementary, and middle school. So you can have areas in the district here that have a lot of middle school and high school kids, and then they still have school-age kids in their homes. They don't have any elementary. They're not going to have any more kids. You know, so like in this particular area, those people in the late 30s, late 40s go out 5 years, 40s, 50s. They've contributed to the elementary. Their kids have now moved on to middle and into high school. So they're not going to help anything on the elementary enrollment going forward. Stony Creek, again, one of the older areas, they have there's also more even distribution. And then White River, which has probably the biggest deficit in the 0 to 4s. Now, look at the characteristics. And again, from 2020 census, 37% of the households have under 18 population at the district level, ranging anywhere from 40 at Promise Road down to 35 at Stony Creek. 37% about average, but that's why it's so hard to get bond issues passed anymore. You're outnumbered 2 to 1. Most households don't have kids in them. And on the far right-hand side, persons per household. Now, this is an underappreciated variable. In 2010, the district's persons per household was 2.69. Now it's 2.65 in 2020. Dropped 0.04. Now, 0.04 doesn't sound like a lot. But if the household size had stayed the same in 2020 as it was in 2010, they would have counted 960 more people. And when you look at traditional two-parent households, mom, dad, whatever the decimal point is kids, tends to be under 18 population. So drop in household size is overrepresenting the under 18 population. Or in other words, you would have had about 900 extra under 18 population counted if the household size stayed the same. One of my favorite stats from the 2020 census, U.S. we grew at 7.4%, which is second slowest in our nation's history. But it's still 22%, or 22 million people increase from 10 to 20. During the same period of time, the under 18 population in the country dropped by 1 million. How could that be? The declining births for 15 years. And no one's escaping that macro trend. householders 35-54, 40% has been dropping since the 2020 census. The good news is householders 65 and plus is at 23%. And you see a wide range in there from Promise Road up to, North has almost 26%, Hazeldale is 28. These areas have a potentially high number of existing homes turning over in the next 10 years. Neighborhoods where you've seen very, very few school-age kids come out of, maybe 10, 15 years, we'll start seeing school-age kids come out of them again. Owners versus renters, and again, a wide range here. You've got a low at Promise Road at 58, but you've got a couple of them up in the 80s. Owners and renters have two different dynamics. Renters tend to be younger, are forming their families, have a lot of preschool age kids, but not that many school age, and moving the average every 2.5 years. Owners tend to be older, have completed their family formation, have kids in school, and move an average every 15 years. So you have ones much older, much more static, and the other ones still forming families and much more mobile. Single person households, about 22%. Again, white, and this number is going up as you're building the apartments. But single person over 65, that's usually one where the spouse has passed away already, 9% and increasing, and that's a good measurement for households that have already, are going to turn over probably in the very near future. This is single year of age. Again, this data wasn't available in 22. It's good for two things. One is to look at the size of the relative 0 to 4 deficit by attendance area. In 2020, 5-year-olds were your kindergarten. 6-year-old was first grade, 7 was second, so on. Now here in 2024, those 1-year-olds are now 5 years old. That's your kindergarten cohort. 2-year-olds are first, 3 are second. So you can see at the district level, whereas the cohort was in the 900s, for 5 and 6-year-olds, it's now down in the 700s. So it tells us the size of how much deficit you need to make up, and also can show it by attendance areas. Now some, it's relatively small. Noble Crossing, not that much of a difference, not that much of a deficit, and we saw that in the pop pyramid too. But Hazeldale goes from 120 down to the 80s. You've got Stony Creek going from 108 down to 81. White River from 121 down to the 70s. And we can also identify larger, small cohorts. A great one here is look at Promise Road. Their 5-year-olds are 140. 4-year-olds pop up to 162. And then the next year it drops down to 139. We can see that because, we've got this 200, we've got 20 more kindergartners coming in. We're growing. Well, maybe, maybe not. It's a large cohort going through. And it drops back down the next year. At the district level, we calculate something we call the market share. And what we do is your actual enrollment for each year, the ones highlighted in red are your first grade for each year, and calculate as a percentage of the actual census count. And if the percentages go up, as you go up, it's either in migration or in transfer. If it goes down, it's out migration, out transfer. So if you look at the first grade, 2020, 86%, with the 81 with the COVID drop, go back to 86, 86, 82. So it's holding fairly steady. The problem is the cohort size dropping. That's why you have 714 this year as opposed to 813. You have to need the in-migration to make up for that deficit because the base cohort dropped by almost 50 kids. And then you get a smaller one coming in behind that too. So you can look at this and see not only how many are moving in, but at what ages. All this goes into the population forecast. Each elementary area has a pop forecast as the district level one. There's 2 ways to read this. 5 to 9 are elementary, so you read that over time. So it goes from 4680, 4720, 4690, 4520, the relative size of that, or follow an age cohort through time. The 0 to 4s in 2020 are now 5 to 9s in 2025, going from 4,233 to 4,720. And they're now 10 to 14-year-olds in 2030, now 4,960. And then they're 15 to 19-year-olds in 2035. That's where you see the increase is going a cohort over time. Median age, it's the age where half are people are younger, half are older. The district with an aging population goes above 40 on median age, and that's where you have most households that don't have kids in them. Your birth drops slightly, not because of a decline in fertility rate, but due rather to fewer women in prime childbearing age. Your deaths go up, not because of disease or COVID, an aging population. You got more people over the age of 65. The natural increase, the excess of births over deaths, it's dropping. It goes down to 470 the last 5 years of the forecast. We already have 15 counties in the state of Indiana with more deaths than births. We're picking up about 1 or 2 per year. That will be the dominant trend moving forward as the baby boom ages. Net migration for the first 5-year period is 1,350. People go, wait a minute, we got more than 1,300 people moving in. Well, you do. Your biggest in-migration flows are people 25 to 45 years old, bringing 0 to 9-year-olds with them. Your biggest out-migration flows are 18 to 24-year-olds going off to college and people over the age of 70. So, plus, take out the minuses, and you come out with a net of about 1,350. A little lower than that. Your high school graduating classes are increasing, so your 18 to 24 out-migration flows, and your college participation rate is, what, post-secondary, 80, 85%. Almost all go to college, and they don't come back. Still pretty strong pop growth, about 5,000 for this decade. Slower than last decade, but again, you've got more people moving out, and you've got more empty nesting going on. This drives the enrollment forecast. We have you at 10,300 this year, and you basically pretty much stay flat, okay? Because you're going to have enough in-migration flow to make up for all of the deficits. Remember, 75% plus of all the school districts in the state of Indiana will lose enrollment the next 10 years. The fact that you're staying flat, you're going to be one of the leaders in enrollment. Carmel's going to go down, Southeast is going to go down, Avon, Brownsburg, they're all going to be, you're going to be holding about even, okay? Now the years where you see the substantial drops like the next year, have you going down 63. The big reason for that is you've got your largest 12th grade class, I think, in your history graduating out this year at 819. So my bucket of water analogy, you've got water going in the top and a hole going in the bottom. Well, this is a year where the hole is going to get bigger and the bottom is going to be going out. You'll notice that the kindergarten first grade enrollment for the life of the forecast stays pretty constant. But years where you have very, very large 12th grade cohorts, anytime it's over 800, you see a rather substantial dip the next year because you just have so many kids graduating out. On our forecast, if the interest rates stay the same, your building plan stays in place and they sell it, and most importantly, you have somewhere between 950 and 1,000 existing homes turnover every year, you'll break even. If you build 300 new homes in a year and you only sell 600, I'm going to be too high. And that's the thing that's befuddling people at the housing market right now. The developers out there are pushing through everything they've got in the pipeline. Why? They're trying to make up the shortfall in existing home sales. Talk to any realtor and they will tell you the supply of existing homes in the house, not just here, but all over the country, at the worst they've seen probably in 20, 30, 40 years. Okay? Bloomberg did a great piece on this. They looked at 2023 total home sales, new and existing, for the 200 largest metropolitan areas in the country compared to 2019. And only 8 of them, and Indianapolis was not one of them, was it back up to 2019 levels. You may be building more than ever, but you're not selling as many as ever. And you still haven't come back up to 2019 levels. And until the elderly empty nesters start downsizing and moving away, that's going to be the case. So the key number to look at is not new home sales, but total home sales per year, both new and existing. That's the key variable. It's going to be the highest amount of variance in both the population and enrollment forecast results. I did that in 20 minutes, which is a record for me.
Thank you. Questions?
I have a
Cora?
question. So on the transfer report that you mentioned, we've had that come up in discussion over the years. And before the recent report, which is 1,200 and some students transferred out, it was like 990 and then low 900s the year before that. So you say that influx is because of the charter and program.
Well, not charter, was the vouchers.
Voucher, right.
Last 6 years, I'll go up. Negative 651, negative 649, negative 689, and they did the first raise of the voucher law in 2021. Went to 821, 926, and they kicked it up to the 226th level, and it became negative 1,200. We got it broken. And you look at the non-public, it goes from 175, 173, 187, 323, 393, 572. Okay, it tracks almost perfectly, and I've got this for all of the 28 Indiana school districts we're doing this year, and we see the same thing everywhere. Now, I mentioned earlier, though, the good thing is they can't raise it anymore. It's going to have any impact because you're 97% of people qualify, so they could raise it to 500,000. It's just not going to have an impact anymore. So we're set that you're not going to have more than 1,200, and then what's caused your increase the last 3 years can't happen again.
Unless people become more aware of the program, right, and decide to take the opportunity.
Like new families.
Like new families.
Qualify
Right.
for it, you know?
Yeah.
Remember, when the state first passed this, remember, this was to help poor people get into private schools. It was $60,000 was the income cutoff. Then it went up to 140 and 150. Now it's 226. So it's just, instead of being limited to people of households that didn't have the money, also remember, you had to provide the transportation to do the vouchers. And that's, not real helpful for poor households. So if you had $160,000, you probably didn't have the money to do it too. But at 220, you're more than likely to have the money to drive your kid to a private school.
Does your report take into consideration the immigration that's taking place and the added students that we're getting?
Well, to a demographer, immigration means crossing a national boundary. You mean in-migration of moving into?
No, people that are moving here from across the globe.
Your immigration rate is frightfully low. Being a born and bred native Hoosier, I can tell you that in Indiana, any increase in what we call non-native population looks, huge because there's not that many of them here. Indiana has never, and I've been studying this state demographically for 50 years now. I can't believe I just said that. Our immigration rate in this country, in this state, has always been a third of the national average. Now, when you have only 1 or 2% and you go to 4%, wow, it's doubled. That's like not even 25% of the national average. So it looks like it to us that we're being overrun by immigrants. We're not. Your migrant that comes into Noblesville, I would say 80% of them are coming from somewhere within 75 miles of the school district. That's where most of them are. Shaking your head like you don't believe
That's not the information that we're receiving from people within the community.
Well, I'm afraid to differ with them then because I've got data that goes back years and, just because they speak a different language, things like that. Of course, you got to remember too, there's an age factor in there too. Is just because they're coming in, they speak a different language, they means they're coming across different borders. The median age of a Hispanic in the United States, in Indiana right now, is 28. The median age of a black is 30. An Asian is 33. White is 44. Who's going to have more kids? So you're going to see more diversity, not just here, but all over the country and the state, because the people who are young and having kids are non-white. It doesn't mean they're immigrants. It doesn't mean they're coming from different countries. And English as a second language at home is still very, very common. It's just, but not in Indiana. This has not been a welcoming state for immigrants, all through the last 50 years, which is why even today we're still, our proportions in this state of Hispanic, East Asian, which by the way, East Asian is the largest immigration flow in the United States. It's not Latin America and hasn't been for the last 15 years, despite what some people will tell you. Our proportions are a third, a quarter of what you see in the nation. So by Indiana standards, it looks at this booming growth. You go up to Pulaski County, yeah, they've got a booming growth because they just put a poultry plant up there and they got Hispanic workers. You don't have that in Noblesville. So it may look different, it's definitely increasing, but being, I like this term, overrun by immigrants. And by the way, that may change here real soon too, depending on how the new administration changes the immigration laws. So I wouldn't take any past 4 years trends on immigration in the country and generalize them forward for any purpose until we see what the impact's going to be. Is this going to be bluster or policy, to be brutally honest? And we don't know yet. Unfortunately, I think it's going to be policy.
Any other questions?
Yes, I have a few. So, do you know how many new single-family homes have actually been constructed since the last study? In the 2022 study, you cited 120 single-family homes per year was the forecasted number. Do you know how we resulted in that?
400, about 400.
Okay.
Since then, single attached.
So it was well over that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yet notice at that same time that you're down 70 students from that point. Okay.
So I also noticed, I just kind of picked through a couple just for comparison reasons. I wasn't here when we did the last one, so thank you to Dr. Heil for providing the last study for us so that we could compare these. But in 2022, for example, where is it? Hazeldale, I believe. The forecasted student numbers were there's a difference of 200 per year. What has changed in 2 years that would cause that kind of a difference?
Well, go down the line. It's people that live in the area decide to either stay or not go to school in that area. Of course, new home construction and, more importantly, existing home sales is going on. Cohort size going in and out. There was some boundary changes since 2022, wasn't there, David?
No.
And there's also been a change in the inter-district transfer policy, too. So.
No.
Yeah, where are you seeing 200?
Well, compared
seeing
for the 2022
Yep,
study
it was a 625.
compared to this one. Let me pull it back up. Sorry.
I see 625
Yeah.
to 630.
So, right. So in this year's report, it's in the 600s for the total K-5.
Yep.
But in 2022, they're all in the 800s.
I don't see any 800. For Hazeldale? 625, and then this is the.
Hazel Dell,
This is the 2022 report, and this number is from the 2024 report. I penciled
Hazel
it in.
Dell in 22 is,
Hazeldale Elementary, 2022, total enrollment K-5. For example, 23-24 school year was 635.
Where's the 800?
And where did I get the 800?
There's both 600.
You know what? I'm sorry.
thank
I
you.
was looking at Hinkle.
Yeah,
Hinkle.
that'll do
Comparing
it.
Hinkle to Hazel.
Yep.
That
Okay.
explains it. Sorry. That's
all
why I
right.
was confused.
Never mind.
I thought that was a really big difference. I'm
Yeah,
like,
it is a big
that's
number.
crazy to me.
No.
So, yes, thank you for pointing that out.
Thank you.
Um,
Next question.
You mentioned that the census data for the 2022, I noticed that you used the 2010 census data, but for this one you
Yes.
used the 2020.
Right.
You mentioned that. It's because it wasn't completely ready and complete
Right.
when you did our 2022?
They didn't release the complete 2020 census till May of 23, so we
Okay.
had the, what they call the redistricting file, which gave us 7 variables. We used those, but we based everything, the only age, sex data we had was 2010, so we had to use that. This one, we brought it forward and used 2020, and all the variables in here are 2020 census numbers.
In general, it looks like both reports show that our district is basically steady over the next 10 years, like around 10,000 students stay steady over the next about
Yeah.
10 years, correct? Like 2 years ago, you showed a slight jump in a couple of years, but then this report, you show it slightly going down. And you think that's, I mean, it's like a matter of 50 students. So, I mean,
Yeah.
that seems like within the margin of error, but you're thinking it's
it-
maybe the voucher situation.
That's one factor, and I have to admit, in 22, I thought there'd be more elderly downsizing. I thought
Wow.
okay, this was post-COVID, they stopped moving. They're either going to start moving or dying, one of the two. They're just not doing either one.
No.
That's good.
So,
Yeah.
We want them to stay alive.
Yeah, there's a couple sitting on this board, so it's probably a good thing. that they
well,
won't die.
the term I use
Like me, yeah.
is prime dying age, and I used to say anybody over the age of 65 was in prime dying age. Well, now that I'm 68, it's anybody over the age of 80, so you got to modify this over time, but they're just not moving. And one of the reasons is we don't have any elder housing in this country. We did a horrible job building it,
Right.
so we're building all these nice apartments. Build elder housing so they can stay in their communities, put their homes in the market, let new young households move into it. That'll help you.
But just to confirm, you're saying that we're going to, like Stephanie's point, we're going to hold steady, and the surrounding districts are not, and really,
Well, we're going to go slightly down.
we're going to go slightly, but not as low as, not the drop that other districts in the county or the state have. So we're in pretty good shape
Actually,
in comparison.
you guys are in really good shape.
Okay.
If you went to the superintendent's meeting, I had that chart up there, and I tracked U.S. and Indiana births for the last 70 years. And of course, Indiana's for the last 50 has been way below the U.S. average on that. But both peaked in 07, okay? And there's been 15 years of declining births, okay? And I'm telling them, look, think about this logically. Those 07 birth cohorts, those are your graduating seniors. Those bottom 2020 birth cohorts, that's your incoming kindergarten. It's not just affecting you guys, it's affecting everybody, including those feeder areas who are sending families in here. And this is a macro variable that you cannot overlook because it's all encompassing, getting everybody. And will be continuing over the next at least 10 years. Southeast, which had all that building, all those people that moved in 10 years ago, they're now all graduating out. Their high school graduating classes are next 10 years are going to average 200 students higher than what they were the last 5 years. That's a big increase that you have to make up. So just to break even, you've got to have the growth you had before plus 200 more a year. They can't do it. The only place they got left is Wayne Township, and they can't build fast enough out there.
And Dr. Heil, why did we decide to do another demographic study 2 years? What was the reasoning?
We So as you brought up a minute ago, obviously there have been some variables that have changed. And we have noticed a few things that have significantly changed both from the state level and even just here locally. We've had a few more neighborhoods pop up than we anticipated. The voucher change is very real, and we've kept an eye on that. We keep an eye on that transfer report pretty closely, and we've noticed the same things that Dr. McKibben shared here, that we've had an uptick in students taking the voucher. And so as we just try to manage our facilities and plan for the future, we just thought, again, also acknowledging that the census data wasn't fully locked in last time either. We thought it's only been 2 years, but we do feel like we need to check in again and see what has changed and how some of these variables have affected our forecasts. And at the end of the day, just for the sake of the audience who maybe has never seen a demographic study until tonight, these are this is not the term I'm sure Dr. McKibben would use, but it's an educated guess, right? He's taking all these factors and historical data. And yeah, that's my words, not his. He can yell at me after the meeting. But, there's a lot of science that goes into this between statistics and all the data that he does that, but it's a prediction, and it's based on the information that he has at the time. And so a minute ago, he shared that, in 2022, he's basing on those assumptions that he talked about at the beginning, but then some things changed that were not in those assumptions. And so, of course, that's going to skew what happens next. So the big change in voucher system happened after that meeting. So what's the technical term for what I just said?
Do you know what a SWAG is?
Swag?
SWAG.
What's that?
Scientific wild ass guess.
Okay, there you go.
Surely this wasn't that.
I'm not going to say that, but yes.
For years in my office, I had a dartboard, and no one ever saw the humor in that. Down all that good stuff.
So I have another question.
Actually, there is a lot of science that kind of goes into this, but not too much of a blindfold. But, and I told this to all school districts, and this is not my 1800 board meeting. People will come in, and you all brought up very, very good and valid factors. No one has said anything here that's wrong. Okay.
Except for mine.
It's
okay.
Well, that was. I'm gonna,
Numbers.
I was gonna leave you be, but you brought it up. Okay. Anyway, mostly not wrong. But everybody looks at 1, 2, or 3 factors, and they always look at the positive factors. There's about 15 or 20 to be looking at. Some are positive, some are negative. Everybody can tell me all of where the growth is going to be. No one's going to tell me where the decline is going to be. That's why my job is to find that. And one of the biggest ones is you're getting old. Okay. How many people out here in the audience have kids in the Noblesville schools? Okay. How many of you are going to have any more kids? There's your problem. Now here's the more important one. As soon as your last kid graduates high school, how many of you are going to sell your house and leave the district? No, but of course they like living here. You see, that's the problem. If you're in a house for 40 years, you got 2 kids, 2 years apart and all that, you got kids in your house, school-age kids in your household, maybe 15 years. That's less than half the time you lived there. I used my dad's house up in Fort Wayne. One time we sent 4 kids to Northwest Allen County schools. Hasn't been a school-age kid come out of that household since 1976. And won't be until they blast my dad out of that house, okay, because he likes living there. And empty nesting is going to be your fastest growing household type over the next 10 to 15 years, more than outweighing new home construction or even existing home turnover. The rate and magnitude of that turnover is going to dictate your population enrollment change. My fear, my assumption, you're well placed, because these are assumptions, okay? You got all these homeowners out there, boomers, and remember the peak of the boom is 68 now, and the front end is 78, all right? Sitting in a house, it's paid off. I'm sitting on a ton of equity. Housing market looks a little funky. Let's get out while the getting's good, and they start dumping them all in the market. And the stampede to the exit will be ugly. But I could see that happening. Okay, let's just cash in our equity and get out and go someplace else. Personally, my theory is we're going to move in with their kids. But it's just me. But they're going to move eventually. It's either going to be voluntarily, we're going to downsize, go someplace else, or involuntarily. You lose a spouse, or I can't maintain this house anymore, and I just can't. I have to move because I just can't take care of it. So there's 2 types. There's voluntary and involuntary migration for the elderly. So
I know I'm liking winters less and less the older I get.
Any other questions?
Yeah, just a quick question. I know you take into your assumption neighborhoods that are already to be built. What about just vacant farmland that's still sitting and hasn't been plotted for neighborhoods?
Fortunately, you don't have that much more because the farmland in the city of Noblesville is over in Wayne Township. Our rule on this is if it's not planned, platted, approved, and permitted, we don't include it. Somebody says, well, I'm thinking about building 400 homes in this field. Well, my analogy there is I've been talking about losing 20 pounds for 20 years. I'm not going to buy new clothes till I lose the 20 pounds. So kind of goes along with that philosophy.
So with that in mind, how far, and you may or may not know this, how far in advance are these proposals for, say, new neighborhoods if it's currently farmland? So I don't know how deep your records can go or how early.
Well, this is where it comes in handy being old, is because I'm old enough to remember 06, 07, 08, when it was never going to end, big building boom was going to go on forever. And everybody said, put 4, 5, 600 new homes a year because we're going to do it. We still have pipe fields in metropolitan Indianapolis that were planned, platted, and approved and permitted 15 years ago that still have been built today, which is why I'm skeptical about putting them in. Planners can plan all they want to. This is the reality of it. And one thing I know is if you start seeing a whole bunch of aging baby boomers dump their houses on the market, you will see buildings stop in its tracks. Because developers, actually, I hate to say anything nice about developers, but they actually work on a very tight profit margin. One developer told me, he says, I build 50 homes, I make nothing on house 1 through 10. I make my money on house 40 through 50, okay? And they're working on a real tight pricing. They put those homes in, they're building them, they can't drop the price in a competitive market. Joe Smith down the road bought the house sitting on $150,000 in equity, says, well, I'll cut $20,000, $30,000 off of it just to get the whole house sold. We just sold our house in Rock Hill, South Carolina, and for double what we paid for it 20 years ago. Person wanted to sell, okay, we'll cut $20,000 off. That's no biggie. House went through like that, sold it in 3 days. Developers can't do that. So when you get in the competition, when you start seeing lots, and you've got a lot of elderly households in this district that start putting their homes on the market, on the short term, the developers always win. On the long term, the existing homeowners always win because they have that pricing advantage that the developers do not.
Okay, any other questions?
I think a lot of people look around Noblesville and think that we're growing. I get that question from the community all the time. Well, you guys are growing like crazy, right? And I'm like, you see a lot of construction and a lot of development, but as far as our district enrollment numbers, we're actually slightly going down each year, and we're supposed to level off. So it's just
Noblesville's growing like a weed.
lots of roads and
Noblesville's growing like a weed. Noblesville School District is a whole different entity.
Right.
And that's, I think, part of the problem. We discussed this in 22. For years, Noblesville and the Noblesville School District were pretty much the same entity. Now, we saw this with your housing building numbers. The percentage of homes being built in the city of Noblesville is out in Wayne Township, and they're going to Hampton Southeast. So where 15, 20 years ago, the district was about 8-7% of the city, you're now down to 60s. And as they keep annexing more and more territory out there, there's going to be a bigger differential between what the city of Noblesville is doing and what the Noblesville School District is. They're not the same thing anymore. Okay, Noblesville will continue growing for the city for at least the next 15, 20 years. I was looking up on, we use Zillow for our home sales data, and type in city, and it'll give me that and the boundaries. They've already got all of Wayne Township annexed into Noblesville. Wonder if they know something I don't, but that's where it's going. And Fishers, they already went annexed as far east as they can go. I don't think they'll come north in the battle. It's like Fort Wayne, Huntertown. Fort Wayne's going to win. I think in this annexation battle, Noblesville's going to win over Fishers, even though it should be the way around by the school districts. But that disconnect will only grow, so people will see more and more growth, and they all come to the same downtown area, but they live in 2 school districts.
Okay, Anything else?
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Appreciate it.
Any questions do come up later on. I don't know how he does it, but David can always track me down wherever I am in the country.
Yeah.
I suspect he put a homing device in my laptop.
Thank you. Next, we have public comment on agenda items. We did not have anyone that signed up to make public comment, so we're moving on to consent items. By single motion, the board approves and adopts the following items: claims, donations, minutes from October, personnel listings. May I have a motion to approve the consent items as listed?
Motion.
Second, can I have a second? Joe, Stephanie, okay, further discussion? Okay, Laura?
There were a couple items on my question to you earlier, Dr. Heil, with regard to a couple of claims. The one that's Kroger Cardis Regis LLP legal services for $2,120. Can you explain that again?
Yeah, absolutely. So KGR, I'll just use the acronym because I always forget the three names there. They're a legal firm out of Indianapolis, and they do a lot of work with our associations and with the various superintendents to kind of support legislative work on the back end. And so board, I'm guessing you've met some of their attorneys at different ISBA functions. They're pretty frequent presenters to all the associations on legal trainings and whatnot. And so they help engage with legislators and set up meetings and things to help, just advance conversations about legislation that may be coming up, issues that are going on. I know a lot of legislators work very closely with Seamus, who's the one that you may have met at some point, to kind of work with him on shaping legislation, and he's kind of a go-between sometimes between legislators and superintendents when they're trying to shape bills and kind of find out how that may impact school districts. So we're engaged with them like a lot of districts are, just on the outside of that, and work with him a little bit.
And the interpreting services for $14,968. That was in docket B.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I'm pulling up your message here. Say it again, docket D.
B like boy.
For interpreting services. Is this the $14,988?
Yes.
Is that the one we're looking at? Yeah. Yeah, so this is for parent-teacher conferences for the interpreter costs there. For audio and on-site translations, and like we listed there in the question, the translations for there were primarily Russian, Vietnamese, Spanish, and Arabic to help with our families who need those services during that time.
And that's during parent-teacher conferences?
I believe primarily was during that time. I'll look to
seems
Shelley,
awfully
probably more
high.
the expert on that.
So it's throughout the year, essentially.
It's not throughout the year at that volume of cost. That is at the beginning of the school year. And then
Okay.
as needed, there are different supports that are offered. And I work with Mr. Hortmill to manage that budget and to account for what's supported and what considerations we need to make across the school year.
I was wondering how that worked because we can't have someone on staff that speaks every single language of every single student, right?
Right.
So I wondered, how do we communicate with Russian families? And so my husband did mention in healthcare that you can wheel in a TV and a translator can be there for a doctor and a patient if they don't speak it. Is that something, is it like that? Like where you have
So we have different tiers of support. So for parent-teacher conferences, we have in-person, so we have a live person.
Okay.
And then we have on-demand that we can do the virtual support.
Okay.
It depends on the need, but parent-teacher conferences, it provides a human experience.
Good.
And as Dr. Bethel was saying, I think it's important to note that it's not that volume throughout the year. The beginning of the year is obviously the heavy,
Because of all the-
as everyone's getting
meetings,
started. There's a lot of forms to go through, a lot of need right there in the beginning as we onboard so many families.
And you provide that for IEP meetings also? Okay. All right. Anything else? All right. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. All right. Next up, we have action items. And the board acknowledged the receipt of bids on Tuesday, October 29th for the Noblesville High School Air Handler Replacement Program project, and the recommended vendor was the lowest bidder that we had. Dr. Hordermiller, would you like, or Mr. Hordermiller, would you like to?
Always do that too.
Right?
Always
So many
The
doctors.
honorary doctor.
Can we
Yes.
first call you
Honorary degree
doctor?
over there.
Would you like to add anything to this?
Yeah, just in real quick summary, of course, you guys are very familiar with this project. This is the second of the two bid packages, the first one being approved last meeting in October, the second one here tonight. Everything is on schedule with this project, so in total, this is 11 air handlers that will be replaced beginning next summer. And again, both vendors are on board to get that project done in that time frame, so that way it's not impacting the school during regular sessions. So again, everything's working in good progress with the project overall.
Great. May I have a motion to approve the bid from Ellis Engineering for the replacement of the air handler units at the Noblesville High School with a total contract amount of $2,290,000?
So moved.
Joe?
So moved.
Second by Misty. Any further discussion?
I have one
Okay,
question.
go ahead, Laura.
And this will go to you, Mr. Hormiller. With Ellis Mechanical, the winning bidder, I've never heard of the name. Our previous bid that we voted on last month was with Irish Mechanical, and they've been around for decades. So can you tell us a little bit about Ellis Mechanical?
Yeah, so as we said in the lead into this, the lowest responsive and responsible bidder. So there is a very in-depth process to become a responsible bidder that our engineer, KBSO, details throughout the process, all throughout the bid process. That everything from their performance bond, their insurance, they met all of the requirements to be an eligible bidder to be selected for this project. And so we have even reached out to references as well. So they are fully capable of performing this type of project, this type of work for us.
And it's nice to see that the bids came under budget.
Absolutely, yeah, we're very excited. And again, much credit to KBSO on that, getting, although it may not seem like a lot of competition because you only see two bidders here, on pre-bid for both of the projects, we had more than 5 vendors show up to walk through. So that certainly gave that perception that there'd be competition on bid day, which I think probably, again, helped to bring down prices on bid day. So yeah, it was great that we were under budget.
Okay, great.
Can you explain a little, so the project is broken down into increments, so we approved one, was it last month, for approximately, was it approximately $2 million? And then this one is $2 million, and then how many more will there be? And what exactly, is it like 4 air handlers in this part of the building and 4 you know what I mean? Like, is it done in stages, or?
Yeah, so it's all done in the stages. So this bid package for the 4 air handlers are going to be locker rooms and the main gym. And then the one with 7 would include stage, vocational, auditorium, performing arts, kitchen, cafeteria, and then the stage ancillary is what that particular air handler room is called. So I know you guys had a chance and opportunity to tour and see some of those rooms, but that's just the rooms and the air handlers within those that we're knocking off here for a total of 11 in this year's bid package.
So we don't bid all of those out at once, like we separate them out?
Correct.
Is there a reason for
Just capacity. Yeah, it's a massive project.
Okay, so then, okay.
And if you remember when, and I'm blanking, Kelly, is that her name?
Kelly, yeah, from KBSO.
She was here a few months ago. Remember, we looked at that really large spreadsheet,
Yes,
and she had them
yes.
in groups. So we're now starting to work through the groups because they're kind of based, I would assume, in a way that they're close together and ones that would make sense to do at the same time, because we can't tear the entire building apart and do all of them in one.
So different companies could be doing different
Yeah.
sections, okay. And as far as the contracts that we have where there are like strike-throughs on a bunch of the wording, is this something we have CCHA look at and they do the strike-throughs, or who's doing the strike-throughs on all of
Yeah, that is our CCHA attorney. Yeah,
Okay.
And that's originally a standard AIA template, so that's just his recommendation to strike that out.
Gotcha, okay, I was wondering, because it's a very thorough, and, okay, thank you, appreciate it.
All right, anything else? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Next, we have public comment on non-agenda items, and we did not have anyone sign up for public comment for a non-agenda item. So we're moving on to committee reports. First up, Dr. Heil.
All right, thank you. And thank you to everyone for sticking around tonight. Just a few quick things to me. I want to say welcome and I guess congratulations to Mrs. Crosser, Mrs. Lambert for their reelection on the board, and congratulations to Mr. Richardson. I believe he's still here. Yep, I see him in the back. On being elected. So they will all be sworn in at our January meeting as as we start off the year in 2025. I want to say a big thank you to everyone who's able to attend State of the Schools. If you were not able to join us in person, we did push out quite a few updates in the link to the video and some other information, so I would encourage you to check that out if you'd like to see some of the, just a few of the amazing things that are going on here. I always tell people the hardest part about State of the Schools is getting down to 45 minutes, because I could get up and talk for 3 days about all the great things happening here. So I encourage you to check that out. I also wanted to give just a precursor for next month's meeting. We had a few questions tonight about ML and EL programs. So I'm actually really excited. We're going to do a presentation during the report section next month about kind of highlighting some things about our ML and EL programming. So really excited to talk about that with our board. Dr. Bethel and her team are gonna lead that with us, and so really look forward to that. Hope you can join us for that conversation. And then last thing, we're just a few days away from Thanksgiving break, so for those who I won't see between now and then, I hope you have a great and restful break. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, Attendance Review Committee, Misty.
All right. Well, this month the meeting was transitioned actually to just kind of having some open communication time via email or phone call for those that needed to discuss anything. And looking over some of the information, it looks like all 10 of our schools have actually shown a decrease in attendance compared to our August attendance records. So we are.
That's exciting.
No.
Oh, decrease. Oh, never mind. Sorry. I thought the amount of.
Now I don't feel so bad about my mistake earlier.
I thought the number was decreasing.
Decreased since August. So it's obvious there are some attendance issues that need to be addressed, and I know our team is working hard and feverishly on how to address those issues. But and again, every month I say it's not a one size fits all, and I can't stress that enough. And I'm not the one that's involved knee deep or neck deep in all of this stuff, so I know Ms. Thacker knows. She's taken it head on. It looks like the Indiana Department of Education has actually launched a attendance insights dashboard, and that is public facing, correct? Yeah. So that's something, if you want to look at those numbers for any school district in the state, you could take a look at that. And do you know what chronic absenteeism is?
10 days.
Chronic absenteeism is having missed 10% or more of the school year.
Yep.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but that is a rolling time frame. So if we're in school for 20 days, 10% is 2 days. So as we go, that number fluctuates, but it's still 10%. So that's just one step in, some of the issues that we need to address, because there are multiple reasons. So, and we have a 3-tiered system that we go through. It goes from individual to just kind of an overall general district, just kind of a focus. I don't know. I'm kind of losing my my focus here on verbiage. Sorry, I'll go on. I'm lingering. I'm done.
Okay, you're done. Okay, next up, ELA program review. Stephanie or Misty?
Yep. So I can start out. Okay, so at our last meeting, we reviewed data from our learning walks, student performance, and stakeholder feedback from a survey that was given to the community about English language arts. We discussed some instructional practices for English language arts that teachers find important. We discussed what teachers would like to see stay, what they would like to see change, and what they would like to get rid of. We talked about the need for vertical alignment, which, if you're not a teacher, I didn't really know what that meant, but it's meaning how it's important for each grade instruction to build on the year before, all the way up from K to 12, and for the importance of using science of reading in our instruction, which includes using phonics. Teachers have a strong desire to have a specific curriculum for ELA, and we started this week attending presentations from vendors that offer curriculum materials. The first one was yesterday from Amplify. There will be 3 or 4 others.
Four more.
4 more other. Okay, and the final decision on which curriculum will be picked will be done and approved by the board in December. I don't know if you want to add anything.
Do you want to add anything?
I don't. Okay. I think they're just doing a presentation. I don't think we're actually choosing one.
Oh, okay.
We're not voting on a curriculum, correct? Yeah.
When will it be?
That's just a presentation from Jen and Lauren.
Oh, okay. Okay. When will the curriculum actually be chosen? Later in the spring.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. April.
Okay.
And that'll be implemented the following school year. Okay. Yeah, okay.
So our full K-12 committee meetings have concluded for the semester, and we're now in the process of meeting, like Stephanie said, with 5 vendors for those curriculum. And we're just working for our steps for the second semester. And from this point forward, I believe the meetings are going to be focused, separated in the 2 groups, grades K-5 and then 6-12.
Thank you. Thank you both. Education Foundation report, Stephanie.
Yep. The Education Foundation has funded 20 grants this year, totaling $25,000. These grants are given to educators and schools and have included things like, which I thought I would highlight some of these things because how great they are. So they provided money for a Job Spark Fair, which was a fair for 8th graders held at the Indiana State Fairgrounds, where Noblesville East students learned about skills needed for jobs and what jobs exist, in addition to learning about equipment used for those jobs. The job fair helps students discover what courses they might need to take in high school to help them forge a pathway for a career they might be interested in. They also fund the Hungry Heroes, which allows first responders to come have lunch with Noblesville Schools students. A $2,000 grant funded a 3D printer at West Middle School. A $2,450 grant was used for the purchase of robotics kits at White River Elementary for their robotics club and STEAM education. Another grant bought new, smaller archery equipment for archery class and PE at Promise Road. Those are just some of the grants that have been given out. Also, the holiday movie trivia night was very successful. It was sold out and raised over $9,000. The foundation will also be sponsoring a new Noblesville Schools Hall of Fame, which I think is pretty neat, which will honor alumni that have made a lasting impact on Noblesville schools. If you have someone that you would like to nominate, you can go to the Education Foundation website where you can find the application to do so. They're also going to be funding some of our tutoring.
That's actually on the Noblesville Schools website.
Oh, okay. It's on the
This is a
Noblesville
partnership with Noblesville Schools, and it's
Yes.
actually on our website under
Oh.
our section.
Perfect. Okay. So yes, go to the Noblesville Schools website if you'd like to nominate someone. Yeah, so they are working with the schools. Okay, so they're also going to be financing, helping finance tutoring since we had federal Title I cuts in the amount of $35,000. They're also going to be helping with mental health. And then also they're already planning Millerpalooza, which happens in, what month does Miller, is it April? March, which will be happening in March.
Yep.
So,
All right.
it was long.
Thank you. ISBA Legislative Committee, Joe.
Yes, November 6th, the Noblesville School Board and Dan and our new board-elect, Brett Richardson, attended the ISBA regional meeting in Kokomo. And at this meeting, Terry Spradlin, our Indiana State School Board Association Executive Director, reviews the upcoming legislative session that the state legislature will be going through and reviewing some of our priorities that we're going to be lobbying for: tuition support, pre-kindergarten program expansion, the complexity index, English language learners, special education, categorical funding, and other funding issues. And as we all know, listening to some of the pre-communications come out of the state legislature, it's going to be a tight budget this year. So I imagine that we will all be lobbying for more dollars for our education process out here.
Okay, thank you. Redevelopment Commission, Stephanie.
The commission approved a resolution approving an economic development area and pledge of TIF revenue for a project with Kittles. They plan to build a 50,000 square foot showroom at the southwest corner of Cabela Parkway and 141st Street with an investment of $20 million. The city will give a $1 million forgivable loan in return for infrastructure improvements. The parcel will be divided into 2 parcels. Kittles will build on one and the other will be shovel ready. Next, the commission held a public hearing for economic development area at Finch Creek, which will include approximately 690 age-restricted single-family dwelling units, which is a Pulte Del Webb property, in addition to 450 multifamily units and 100 townhomes and condos and 10,000 square feet of retail space on 517 acres. Also, according to new state law, the commission was presented with an annual TIF spending plan, which will be filed with the Department of Local Government Finance, which shows a cash balance of $22 million, projected expenses by the RDC in the amount of $48 million, and total revenues of approximately $32 million. It is projected there will be a cash balance of $5 million at the end of 2025. Last, the commission approved a payment of $12,000 to Justice at Promenade for road impact fees. Justice will be relocating its headquarters to the northeast corner of Little Chicago Road and State Road 32.
Thank you. Noblesville Youth Sports Alliance, Misty.
All right. So we met and went over the budget, which I don't really vote on it, but I just kind of witness and provide any communication between us and the Youth Sports Alliance. But they did discuss a couple of instances where they were able to help out students or children in the community with the various needs for sports. Again, I mean, I feel like a commercial for them every month. I give an update, but I mean, it's a really great program. You can go to their website if you're interested in any kind of a sport for your child here in the community, because they have links to all of the different opportunities for various sports, anything from wrestling to lacrosse to volleyball to whatever, you name it, to track, softball, all of that. And so they help with registration expenses, but they actually recently even helped when it came to a student involved in a school sport. Because we all know sometimes that can place a hardship on families too, because there are additional needs to support that student in their sport. So they were able to help out a student in need and get them the additional supplies and equipment they needed for their team sport here in the district. And let's see, looking, everybody went through all of it. And Noblesville Boys and Girls Club is also part of this this group, and they are actually offering free memberships for teens who participate in a Noblesville sport. So sign them up; it's free. You can jump on the website, Boys and Girls Club, contact them for more information about that. If you want to check out Noblesville Youth Sports, you can go to noblesvillesports.com. And our next meeting is November 26th.
Thank you. Wellness Committee, Joe.
Yes, the Wellness Committee is being rejuvenated or revisited or restructured.
I was wondering,
and Erin Bratton's going to lead the project. She's our food services director. So we had an initial meeting last month to begin to think about how we're going to go about this process. So in essence, I'll have a better report in January, February, when we get all the pieces put together to figure out what we're going to do. And I think Erin will do a great job because she's just a super duper organizing kind of person. So more to come after the first year.
Okay. Thank you so much. Our next board meeting, regular board meeting, is Tuesday, December 17th here at 6 p.m. And may I have a motion to adjourn? Joe?
Second.
Second by Stephanie. Any further discussion? Okay.
I would just like to ask a couple questions from the reports that we've had from the leadership and our department heads. One of them is with human resources, and in your report, Heather, with the substitute teachers that you honored, how many substitute teachers do we have? Yeah.
I don't know off the cup. Not enough. Is that a good answer?
Okay.
Right.
All right.
We had quite a few come to that. That was the first breakfast that we had to honor them. And we had quite a few that came, and we were able to honor all that they do for us. But I can give a number to you.
Well,
I don't want to give you a wrong number.
okay, well, thank you. I just think that was a great thing to do.
Yeah.
For the
It was a great event. Joe and I
substitute
both were
teachers.
there, and it was nice to be able to sit and, chit chat with some of them. Yeah. It was a great event.
And then my next question, let's see. I was going to ask Dr. Rich a question on, let's see here. Oh, on the math professional learning. It said your report mentioned that teachers extended their learning by returning to the core concepts of math. Can you explain that a little bit? great. And then,
A lot of really, good support and a lot of collaboration amongst all of our middle school teachers in math in particular. That's where our focus has mostly been for this work, and our math department chairs and our instructional coaches and our principals have been a really important part of that.
oh, fabulous.
Yeah, it's been good.
Also, in your report was about Democracy Quest, which was a virtual reality. That sounds cool.
Yes, and so I actually had a chance to try that, and it was absolutely amazing. I was able to visit virtually Ben Franklin's printing press and actually engage in primary source documents from the time. And so we were doing a trial with our teachers as they prepare to teach those lessons. And so next semester, they're actually going to come in and we're going to start using that in our classrooms. So
Nice.
the only thing I will say is that when I took the virtual headset off, it's actually I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
Because you really
Yeah.
feel that you are actually, just like I'm here in the boardroom, I felt like I was here in the printing press area with all of the people, and they were talking to me, and it was really, really
Oh, it sounds like it.
yeah, the kids are going to love it.
I can imagine. Oh, good. And then my last question goes to Andrew Zwickheimer. Andrew, with regard to the cybersecurity measures that you're educating the staff about, is that something that's available to the public too? Because we could all probably learn something. Oh, okay. Mm-hmm. Right. Right.
Service from the state provides to help train staff.
Okay.
But bragging on Andy for a moment, he did go over to the Noblesville Senior Citizens Center a couple of months ago and do a training with them all about cybersecurity stuff. So that was really cool.
Oh, that's great. And and how did you do with the marathon?
Oh, good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, everybody.
I like, Andy, your reminder that you put out about not letting people slip in with you when you're coming into the building, because, I mean, that's hard. Because you want to be nice. That's just built in. You want to be nice and let the person in behind you, but then I'm like, oh, sorry, I'm that person. You can't come in. Yes.
Yep.
Yes. And I want to thank all of you guys for all of your departmental updates every month. I don't always comment on them, but I do read them, and I appreciate all of the work and the effort that you put into it. Unfortunately, you guys are in positions where your work doesn't really get noticed until it doesn't get done. So, and for that, I thank you.
Yes, we appreciate the reports.
I do have one question. I don't remember whose update it was. I didn't put that note on there, but it was the Certificate of Multilingual Proficiency. How do students earn that certificate?
Ah.
So the certificate of multilingual proficiency is offered to any multilingual student that is proficient in multiple languages sometimes, and they demonstrate proficiency in their native language, for example, Spanish and English. And it's an assessment where they do a reading, writing, and listening piece, and that is through the state of Indiana, and they receive a biliteracy seal of proficiency at graduation. We hold an honors ceremony. Those students are recognized. For the past 3 to 5 years, we've averaged between 30 and 40 students for every graduating class.
So is that different than, so like they're required to take a foreign language, so many credits. I know they start actually taking that in 8th grade and then they continue that in high school. Is that part of the qualification, or is there something more they need to do?
Part of the requirement for them to take world language? Is that what you're asking?
To earn that proficiency certificate.
So the requirement is to be proficient in English and another language.
Okay.
So most of our students already have proficiency in Spanish or French or Punjabi, and then the English proficiency is the side to
Okay. So they have to sign up to take a specific test for that? Okay. 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 Perfect. All right. Thank you.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. We are adjourned.
That's good.